Just a reminder, you can catch me recording this podcast live on AMP. AMP is a new live radio app that lets you call in and chat with me in person while recording. Get the app on Apple's App Store and make sure you follow me at John Middlekauff to get notified when I go live. What is going on? Breaking news. Jonathan Taylor officially allowed to seek a trade. Where will he go? We'll dive into it all coming up, as well as some other NFL topics on 3 and Out. That's this podcast with me, John Middlekauff. Subscribe wherever you may listen. If you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, as well as smash that like button and leave a comment. Let me hear your thoughts. See my hat? Go to thevolume.com, and search the merchandise and get yourself either a flex fit hat. We also have trucker hats. Thevolume.com, search 3 and Out, and get yourself some gear. We will dive into a lot, but first, can I tell you about the favorite app that is in my phone? It's the Gametime app, the official ticketing app of this podcast. I know a lot of you listening have gone to either a sporting event, a concert, or a comedy show because of this app and with our promo code JOHN and got $20 off when you went. If you're listening to this right now and you want to get out of the house this weekend or this fall and you want to go do something, go to a football game, go to a playoff baseball game. You live in Atlanta, you want to watch the Braves win the World Series, do it on me. You want to go watch I went to Morgan Wallen. He's fantastic. Highly recommended. He's going all around the country. You want to go to a concert, whatever music you listen to, do it on me. Promo code John. Download that app. Search any event you want to go to, concert or game. Take a son, take a daughter, take your dad, take your friend. Just have a good time. And do it with a $20 discount. Promo code John. Cannot recommend them enough. Everyone that's used them, greatly appreciate it. And you should too. If you're thinking about it, do it and do it now. Promo code John. Let's get into the Jonathan Taylor situation. Now, overall, I think this is very understandable. Anytime emotion gets involved with our professional life, which typically revolves around money, things get distorted fast. And we've all been in a position, if you've ever worked for somebody, I don't care if you're 23 years old or if you're 48 years old, where you felt you were undervalued. And when I say undervalued, I don't mean you're not getting emailed enough, right? You're not in the loop enough. You're not being paid enough. You think the work you're doing is not being valued enough in your compensation. In the private sector, that's the way we equate our worth, right? How much we're being paid. And the moment we think we're underpaid, we can get emotional. We're all human beings. It's understandable. And on the other side, when you think you're paying enough and not getting the results, you can think that person's screwing you. Or there are people listening right now that own businesses, big and small, that know, God, I'm really getting away with one. Paying someone $100K when he's easily worth $500,000 to me. It's no different in the NFL. It's why these running backs, where if we rewind this situation, now that Jonathan Taylor has officially been allowed to seek a trade, I think there are a lot of angles here. First and foremost, I completely understand why we're here. That phone call directly impacted this human being. It made him think, I am getting royally screwed. And after that phone call, after previously a couple months before, during the offseason, he said, not only did I sign this contract, we'll play this out and it'll all figure itself out. He's a great player. He's everything you want when you are an NFL GM and you make a draft pick. High character, stud on the field. He's awesome. I've loved Jonathan Taylor since he was in college. In his first 2 years, he lived up to that billing. Then he gets hurt. It's the NFL. People get banged up. But the moment he went on that Zoom call, it felt like him specifically, like, I'm getting screwed. I don't see Christian McCaffrey bitching and moaning. I don't see Derrick Henry causing a problem. Hell, Saquon Barkley immediately signed his franchise tender. The only guy left with Jonathan Taylor is Josh Jacobs, who's nowhere to be found. But then Jim Irsay, who I've said it forever, created this situation, at least poured kerosene on the fire and made this situation much, much worse. Now, if he had kept his mouth shut and never said the comment, which was factually correct, that if he died, no one would notice, and if Jonathan Taylor was out of the league would keep on churning. He's 100% right. What he said was a fact. Tom Brady, the most accomplished NFL player ever, I'd argue the most famous football player of all time, literally just retired, will not play, we think, this upcoming season and beyond, and no one cares. Not a soul. It'll do historic ratings this year. More money will be bet on the NFL than ever before. All the good teams will charge more money for their tickets on the secondary market than ever. It's going to be an incredibly highly consumed NFL season. And Tom Brady's long gone, and no one cares. But the fact is that Jonathan Taylor thinks he's getting screwed. And Jim Irsay made this whole situation worse. Now, would they have been here if he had kept his mouth shut? I don't know. As someone in the league texted me, Jonathan Taylor got a new agent. This agent, who actually is Darius Leonard's agent, who's, a guy on the Colts who's been extended. The way it was described to me, he's not afraid to mix shit up. He'll get in the mud, which if I was a player or if I'm anyone being represented by an agent, hell, if the person's representing me buying a home, I want that person to have not only my best interest, but will do whatever it takes to get the best deal possible. It's literally why you're paying them. But this situation, the Colts go, okay, seek a trade. What the fuck do we think is going to happen now? Who in the NFL, and by all reports, they want a first-round pick. Don't blame him. He's arguably their best player. Who's trading a first-round pick? Newsflash, nobody. Okay, they need enough picks that would equal that. Okay, let's say 2 twos. Who is trading 2 twos for a running back who also wants, let's just pick a number, $40, $45 million guaranteed? So wait, I have to trade a pick. And listen, the market has spoken on all these other players. You want Khalil Mack? This is 4 years ago, multiple ones, $90 million guaranteed. You want Tyreek Hill? You want Devontae Adams? A 1, a 2, and $70 million guaranteed. You want Jalen Ramsey? A 1, a 2, and an enormous contract for Jalen. So when elite players are on the open market at other positions, they get ones, they get 70, 80, $90 million. Money picks are flowing around. Even Jamal Adams, which we could rewind as a trade that the Seattle would like over again, multiple ones, and they paid him. Does anybody with a working brain that follows the NFL think a team is going to make a big trade and then pay Jonathan Taylor? I have a hard time. I'm not saying it's inconceivable. I don't see it happening. And texting around people inside the league, all of them said, this will blow over. Cooler heads will prevail. Part of it is because they're not going to get any good offers. Remember, over the offseason, Austin Eckler, who has been extremely productive. I don't have it in front of me, but I'm pretty sure the stat is he leads the league in touchdowns the last couple of years. Thinks he's underpaid. And just based on the touchdowns, probably is. Makes a little under $7 million. They're like, Austin, seek a trade. Find somewhere else that will trade for you and then pay for you. No one did. Nobody. Because his value, $7 million, most people in the league like, wait, you want me to give like a second round pick and then you want me to give you like $30, $40 million? That's not happening. Not at this position. And this gets back to the running backs. They all bitched. They all moaned. The people leading the charge were all super rich. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey, even Saquon realized, pretty good deal. Might as well sign up and go back. And he did. And then you get Jonathan Taylor, who had zero issues until now, thinks he's greatly underpaid. No one else is going to pay you, especially when I have to factor in, give either multiple picks or a first-round pick. I just don't see it happening because it will not happen. And it gets back to every single year, guys, in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and undrafted free agents don't just make teams, they start for teams. They contribute to teams. Hell, they're the starting running back for a team that wins the Super Bowl, Isaiah Pacheco. I'm watching the Cowboys. Deuce Vaughn, going to make the team. What round was he picked? The 6th. You can find good players at that position all over the place in a draft. And that works against Jonathan Taylor. So when people go, where's he going to go? Everyone I've talked to don't think he's going to go anywhere because who is going to pull the trigger? Now, if Jonathan Taylor was DeForest Buckner, then we'd have a different conversation. If Jonathan Taylor was an offensive tackle who was viewed as really good, young 24-year-old, we'd have a different conversation. But he's a running back. And we just keep beating a dead horse on this over and over and over again. So while Jim Irsay opened his mouth and made this situation worse, he was not wrong, because running backs are so replaceable. And this is why I think the Colts are like, listen, Jonathan, I don't know what's been going on. I know last week he had a excused absence, but before, are you injured? Your ankle, pup? What the fuck is happening? You've had no issues your entire career, college or pro. And now this one Zoom call, this one new agent, now you're acting, like you're getting royally screwed when no one else would pay you. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe by the time you're listening to this, someone has traded and broken them off. I have a hard time seeing it. I actually don't think it's going to happen, because teams over and over, beside Jerry Jones, who immediately think about the last two major contracts at running back, Todd Gurley and Zeke, they were signed pretty early. Both teams immediately regretted it. Say what you want about the Carolina Panthers and Christian McCaffrey. They were able to offload him for a second, a third, and a fourth, right? And have someone take back that contract. That could not be said about Zeke. Definitely could not have said about Todd Gurley. So this situation is just, everyone's got to take a deep breath, which is understandable. Anytime money gets involved with alpha males in competitive industries, people get hot and bothered. I've been there. You've been there. We've all thought we were getting screwed. And whoever we've worked for have probably been mad at us. And over time, if you both value each other, if you both respect each other, everyone will just take a deep breath and come to the table and figure it out. Now, big picture, are the Colts ever going to break him off? I don't know. Maybe not. But we've seen these situations before where people get mad at each other in pro sports, and then you just ride it out and everything is okay. But what's Jonathan Taylor going to do? Refuse to play and just have his contract told and he'd be no closer to free agency? That doesn't make any sense. Just argue with Jim Irsay every day? That doesn't make sense. Now, there's a hard one for the Colts. If he is willing to kind of do what he's been doing, do you want your rookie coach, who I've said it all the time, this is why head coaches make so much money. Because when Shane Steichen was the offensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles, if the equivalent of this would have happened, would not have been his problem at all. This would have been on Howie Roseman and Sirianni. And he would be like, just deal with the next running back up, man. You're the coordinator, just call the plays. But when you're the head coach, all the problems land on your desk. Even this situation, this honestly, he kind of inherited and had nothing to do with. And if anything, Jonathan Taylor would be perfect probably for his offense with this young quarterback. But this is where the situation gets tough, right? If he is really going to create a problem, do you want him around your young, raw quarterback? Probably not. But you're not just going to give him away for nothing, right? And then the team, let's just say they would be like, okay, we'll just get him out of the building, give us a couple threes. Well, if I just trade for him, then do I have to pay him as well? Like, would he play for me under the same contract? Or does he mandate that I give him the $45+ million or whatever the guaranteed is that he wants, right? So the situation's ugly, but as most feel in the league, and I would tend to agree, deep breaths, everything will be figured out, and Jonathan Taylor will remain a Colt. If you're a Patriot fan, you probably knew this was happening, and I guess, saw the headline back when it was first announced, but I saw it yesterday or today because Bill Belichick was talking about Tom Brady, and they are not just honoring Brady. I guess they're retiring his jersey, right? Week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles. And it kind of was like, that's a little weird. I understand he's the greatest player in franchise history. He's the greatest player, most accomplished player in NFL history. But he's been retired for 10 minutes. Wouldn't you, like, if you and me were running a team, the one game where even if we're going to suck, let's just say the Patriots have a terrible season, and for them, 6-7 wins would be a disaster. Probably Belichick would get fired. But the last game that we would need anything extra, even with Tom, Tom could come with Bob Kraft or whatever, but would you retire his jersey that game? It's week 1. Every single team in the league is not just alive, but has hope, and you think you could be good. The fans are excited, real football. You don't need any extracurricular thing around your team. I can't really say that word, extracurricular, so I won't even try. But you don't need any just marketing. And Tom Brady's not marketing, but you know what I mean. You just would not need the Tom Brady retirement jersey week 1. I could look through the schedule. To me, the easiest thing would be whoever the worst team on paper you're playing, that would make the most sense because you never know if you're bad, maybe mid to late in the season, depending on how it's going. So I started thinking, why would they do this? Is it just strictly they love Tom? Obviously they do. He's meant everything to their franchise. Obviously he has. But is it pretty normal to do it week 1? I've been around sports now professionally my entire adult life. And when I worked in radio, I was around all NBA, the Major League Baseball, and obviously the NFL. And a lot of times this type of stuff happened, whether it's something to do with Dwight Clark or Joe Montana or Steve Young, whether it's something to do with the San Francisco Giants who do something every single night of the year. Usually you save stuff like this to like a week where you might need a little oomph, where you might need a little kick in the ass, where you might need a little, let's wake up to the fan base, where you might need to kind of light a little fire under them. Not week 1, where I don't care if you're a Texans fan, whether you are a Arizona Cardinal fan, week 1's cool. I'm excited for that game, regardless who we're playing and regardless anything that's happening at halftime. It doesn't make any sense to me. And then I thought, like, is there a chance that Robert Kraft is doing everything humanly possible, trying to talk Tom Brady into, hey, Tom, if this doesn't go well with Bill, you want to be John Elway for my team? Do you want to just be the boss? Because if this season goes poorly for Bill and they fired him, he also is the GM. Like, they wouldn't have anything. They wouldn't have a head coach, wouldn't have a personnel guy. They'd have nothing. He is really the last lone grand poobah of a franchise, right? Every team, right? John Schneider, Pete Carroll, Brett Veach, Andy Reid. Or if you fired one or one retired, you have the other, right? Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. Les Snead, or Kyle Shanahan, John Lynch. Les Snead, Sean McVay. You go around. Belichick is very unique. He's in charge of both. Now, some of those coaches I listed technically have decision-making power, but you know what I mean. There is no GM for Belichick. Is there a chance that Robert knew, I need to go all in? Because if this doesn't go well, who's Robert Kraft going to hire to be his GM? Wouldn't it make a lot of sense to Tom? What's Fox paying you? I'll pay you $5 million more a year. You can just create your own role. President / GM / whatever the fuck you want to be, you're in charge. You hire the coach. You hire the GM. You hang with me. You're in charge of our football operations. We just saw John Elway do it, and I know it ended poorly, but he won a Super Bowl, landed Peyton Manning. I actually think it would work pretty seamlessly if Tom wanted to do it. But you need I just do not understand why. And listen, Patriot fans are like, Middlekauff, you're reaching here. Why would you do it week 1? This is a marketing. It's all just an unveiling. You don't need it week 1. Of all the weeks to get the fans riled up, to get your team riled up, it's irrelevant. Everyone is excited. Me, you, the players, the coaches, the executives, you name it. Anyone that follows football, week 1, we're all in. We might start, depending on who we are, start changing our tune by week 2, but not week 1. So I'm telling you, I got this one flagged. I wonder if Bob Kraft, if this season goes poorly, he would offer it all to Tom. Tom, how much would you cost? $30 million a year to be just in charge of my entire team? You create your own role. Elway meets whatever. Howie Roseman meets the president of the franchise. You do it. You run it. You're the boss. I think it's on the table, at least from Robert Kraft's standpoint. I don't know if Tom would do it, but if I was Robert Kraft, that's who I'd be looking at. That's who I'd want. If I'm going to get rid of Bill Belichick, I can't just hire Gerard Mayo and have some random GM and think like this is going to work, because it won't. It'd be ugly, and it'd be ugly fast. But if you had Tom and Mayo and then some other assistant to run your GM, I think fans would get behind that pretty quickly. One team I've really changed my tune on, because two things I really value that every human with a brain values is coach and quarterback. And I'm not acting like Daniel Jones is some star. I thought it was crazy when he was drafted, and I'll never forget one of my good buddies that does the SEC really liked him. And he's like, I'm telling you, I think he could be a better version of Alex Smith. And obviously his career was very, very bumpy. He dealt with Joe Judge and Jason Garrett and just shitty coaching situations. But it was ugly. Like, there was no way to watch Daniel Jones play and go, this guy's ever going to be a solid quarterback. You could say the same thing for Alex Smith, who dealt with Mike Nolan and Mike Singletary. And it wasn't until Jim Harbaugh who made him into just a real quarterback. And then Andy Reid turned him into a quarterback that, like, you could just consistently make the playoffs with, right? So people believed in him. And Brian Daboll immediately proved, like, he's a big-time coach. Like, I think Brian Daboll is the real deal. And I was watching him, I guess that would have been Friday or Saturday night. His coaching staff's fantastic. Hires Mike Kafka, who's been on Andy Reid's staff forever. Hires Wink Martindale, who's clearly one of the better defensive coordinators in the league. And then I'm just watching Daniel Jones. I'm like, I remember when Harbaugh did this with Alex, he looks dramatically better. And part of making a quarterback look better when you've just kind of been in the mud and it's been ugly is doing a good job around him. And part of doing a good job around him, one, like, how do you handle weird situations? Saquon got weird fast. Started going on, like, business podcasts, talking shit. And then within a couple weeks, they just agreed to a deal, and he's all in, and just everything's fine. They made a trade that, listen, Darren Waller, did he quit on the Raiders? It got weird. I don't really know, but he clearly looks fantastic for the Giants. And when Darren Waller was healthy and cared, he was an elite player. You can't cover him. He's tall. I mean, he's like 6'5", 6'6". He runs like a wide receiver and has incredible ball skills. Like, he is a dominant tight end when healthy. Now, he hasn't been healthy in a while, but for the Giants, he's healthy right now, looks fantastic. So you got Saquon, head on straight. You got Darren Waller, who's been in a weird space, really looks motivated. Clearly done a good job drafting over the last couple of years, as well as just kind of a tough-minded operation. I thought the Giants, I undervalued their talent last year clearly, because when I get a good head coach, he gets my talent to overachieve. And then once you start getting more talented players in, once I get high-end guys to overachieve, we start winning big. Now, I don't think the Giants are going to win the NFC East, but I do wonder last year, when you think about it, they played the Eagles, they got their ass kicked, right? They were clearly the third best team in that division. They still might be the third best team in that division this year, but I do wonder if it looks a little bit different. I do wonder if it's a little more closely contested, because if you go, if you just polled around the league right now, Brian Daboll, I mean, is he a top 10 pick? In a weird way, and I don't know if this is fair or not, because Sirianni last year got to a Super Bowl, but I think he's got a lot to prove this year, because it was like, well, his coordinators both got head coaching jobs, and mainly his offensive coordinator. Now we'll see, right? Change the offensive coordinator if it's seamless. Like, it's going to be hard to deny that Sirianni's clearly not doing something right. And it's not like Daboll's calling plays. Kafka was last year. But it does feel like Daboll is more highly thought of, and definitely than McCarthy, which is kind of unfair too, because McCarthy's last couple of years just rattling off 12 wins with the Cowboys. But I do wonder, I don't just wonder, I kind of expect the Giants to not only be better, but just of those 4 games with the Cowboys and clearly the Eagles, for just to be a little tighter, for just to be a little closer. Because last year it was not. I mean, the Eagles beat the shit out of them. And if they get Waller going, if Kayvon could take a step, I do wonder if they're just a more formidable opponent this year. And they're a team that I'm definitely higher on than I was probably 6 months ago, because you just watch them, you go, Waller's the real deal when healthy. I think Daniel Jones is going to be better, and Daboll's just a stud. And I'm not saying Daboll is better than Sirianni, but my point is that if you just polled around the league, I think a lot of people would take Daboll. Fair or not. A lot of Sirianni's, a lot of pressure this year offensively, even though they have all the pieces, and I don't know why they'd look any different. But if they do, quote unquote, take a little bit of a step back, people will be like, oh, it was all Shane Steichen. So that's a talking point that we'll get into, I'm sure, as the season goes on. I expect the Eagles to be really good. I mean, I'm going to pick Eagles to win the division. I think them and the Cowboys are pretty damn close. But if those are two 13, 14-win teams, like, I think the Giants might be more of a real 11-win team than like the 9-8 team that they were last year. The hype on these college quarterbacks, man. I saw the All-American team came out. Caleb was obviously, first team All-American. Drake May, second team All-American. One thing football still really has that the other sports, I mean, baseball never really has, but when I was a kid, basketball, because college basketball wasn't just really big, it's all the star players went there for several years. So there weren't, Allen Iverson went for multiple seasons. Shaquille O'Neal went for multiple seasons. You got star players playing multiple seasons, and there was a build up to their draft pick. Well, the NFL has always had that. Guys in college football become stars because you watch their careers multiple seasons. We watched Bryce Young 2 years ago beat Georgia in the SEC championship game and then give everything he had in the national championship game, and then he had to return to school. We watched Trevor Lawrence become a national championship champion as a freshman and then play 2 more seasons. And same with all these other positions. Marvin Harrison, we've been watching him for a couple years now. All these players who are stars in college, we get to just kind of know them over the course of their career. And it helps us not only just be interested in college football, but once they get to the NFL, they're really famous. We've been talking about Tua since he was like 19 years old. Most of the star rookies we've known, even some of the random guys, right? Aiden O'Connell right now is having a lot of success. Well, if you're a Michigan, Ohio State, or Wisconsin fan, you've seen him play over the last couple of years. You watch a lot of Big Ten football. Brock Purdy, he wasn't just some fucking nobody. We all had watched Iowa State play a game or two over the years, right? So if you start for multiple seasons in college football and you're a good player, we keep an eye on you. When you become a rock star Heisman Trophy guy, you become like fringe NFL famous. And Caleb Williams, because of the hype on this player, you know, he's like in the Trevor Lawrence, Andrew Luck category. Now, I think depending on who you talk to, Drake May, you know, is he a clear number 2? Is he a 1A, 1B? I don't know. That's what's fun about college football. Like, we're going to get to watch him this year. Last year, he went 38-7. In North Carolina, couldn't stop me or you. But they were terrible on defense. But not only was he clearly awesome, this offseason, places like Alabama offered him $5 million to come play. Nick Saban, I don't know if he directly called him, but it was clearly on the table, and he said no. Caleb Williams clearly was worth a shitload of money when Lincoln left and USC paid him to come over. Now, you could say he was going to follow him no matter what. Would he have? If the money wasn't there, his value was really high. So you get both these guys who combined for almost, 80 touchdowns. Their stats, Caleb threw 42, May threw 38, Caleb had 5 interceptions, May had 7 interceptions. Like, these guys are studs. I can't wait to watch them play. And I think the coolest part about this year with college football is the depth of quarterback play. Obviously, the high end with Caleb, super hype guy. I think Drake May isn't quite that, but he's not far behind. And then you have this group of just quarterbacks all over the country. Michael Penix, Bo Nix, Hartman, the transfer from Wake Forest to Notre Dame. Like, you have legitimate names at quarterback that were like, how many guys are going to go in the first round? Now, you never know. And anytime a first round hype, builds up before a season, it never turns out that way. And just because a lot of guys end up going in the first round doesn't mean they become really good players. We just saw it a couple years ago. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance are backups going into their 3rd season. But it does make this sport interesting. And it really is, they're the star of the sport for a reason. Highest paid, and just most important. Because if you have a good one, it changes your franchise. So Caleb Williams plays this weekend against San Jose State. I would expect USC to destroy him. And to me, the cool part about, obviously, Caleb is he's on a team that a lot of people think can win a national championship. Now, to me, the question with Lincoln is, offensively, he's elite. It doesn't get much better. There have been a short list of guys over the last couple decades that are on his level. Mike Leach taught him. Mike Leach was that guy. Could never get a defense. Chip Kelly could get a defense, came up a little short. His offense, to me, was always a little soft. Lincoln was always willing to go under center if he has to. There's a physical element to his run game that I never really saw with Chip Kelly when he was at Oregon. The question with Lincoln was defense. Could he get a good enough defense? Could he recruit SEC level guys? Well, this offseason they have. They've got a lot of transfers. The hype on this team, led by Caleb and him, the depth of this team, I can't wait to watch them play. I can't wait to watch this team compete to see if they can make it to the Final Four and just be in the mix. And Drake May, his team is not going to be that good, but they're a top 20 team. They're a team that should win 8 or 9 games, going to play in a ton of marquee games. They open against South Carolina that ended their season last year. I'm pretty sure they beat Clemson in the last regular season game. Pretty sure they won a big bowl game. South Carolina's got a lot of momentum. Shane Beamer's kid. is the I think his name is Shane Beamer. What was Frank Beamer? It's Frank Beamer's the dad, Shane Beamer's the son. But I think the college quarterback play this season should be awesome. I mean, the sport has never had, it feels like going into a season, more teams at the high end. Like you could argue 10 Power 5 teams like could win the Natty. I talked to someone the other day that was like, Texas is stacked. Now, I'm not a huge Sark believer, but the Big 12 is going to be down. Now, can Sark, to me, I think they play Alabama this year. You're allowed to lose that game. But last year he was losing to like random Big 12 teams. 2 years ago, he lost to Kansas. But talent-wise, from what I've been told, it's big time. They got first-rounders everywhere. They got a lot of firepower. And Oklahoma's clearly down. So no excuses. Obviously, in the SEC, you got Georgia, Bama, LSU, Clemson. Florida State's going to be really good. Michigan, Ohio State, USC. I think Washington's going to be really good. We'll see. Oregon. College football, man. I can't wait.